Arsenal are facing what seems like an impossible task. They not only need to overturn a deficit at the home of Paris Saint-Germain, but they must do so against a side that has not lost a single Champions League home match this season. After their defeat at the Emirates, Arsenal now head to Paris. With a mountain to climb, just the thought of it sounds daunting. Mikel Arteta is still calling this an opportunity to make history, but the reality is his team just suffered a painful defeat to Brentford at home. It was not just a loss on the scoreboard, but a defeat that exposed deep tactical and psychological flaws. Meanwhile, Luis Enrique's Paris Saint-Germain are playing with ruthless efficiency. They know how to sit back, absorb pressure, and strike on the counter. Hakimi dropped deeper to shut down Martinelli, the midfield closed down Odegaard, and the only goal of the first leg came from Ousmane Dembele, who was left with far too much space. Arsenal need a near-perfect performance. Odegaard must return to his role as a creator, not just a deep-lying midfielder. Saliba needs to play like a rock at the back. Declan Rice has to dominate the midfield, and perhaps Arteta needs a touch of madness, a bit of calculated risk, to ignite the fighting spirit of his players. But above all, they must believe that Paris is not an impenetrable fortress and that history is not just something to be remembered, but something that can be written tonight. Looking at recent form, both Paris Saint-Germain and Arsenal have their own issues. PSG have been impressive at home in the Champions League, scoring 14 goals in their last 3 matches. However, in all competitions, they have been inconsistent, losing 3 of their last 6 games, including a shock defeat to Strasbourg, despite fielding a strong lineup. On the other hand, Arsenal, despite suffering their first Champions League loss of the season, have now dropped 2 straight domestic matches, including a baffling slip-up against Brentford. Their defense has started to show cracks, while the attack lacks the sharpness and decisiveness needed at this level. In terms of squad depth, Paris Saint-Germain have a clear advantage. They are almost at full strength, with the only major doubt being the fitness of Ousmane Dembele. Although he has shown signs of recovery, his availability remains uncertain, and Enrique may choose not to take the risk. Instead, he could turn to the combination of Kvaratskhelia and young talent Désiré Doué, a duo with physicality and pace, but perhaps lacking the unpredictable flair of Dembele. In midfield, PSG will likely stick with their trusted trio of Vitinha, Fabian Ruiz, and João Neves, who were rested in Ligue 1 to be fresh for this crucial clash. This is a group capable of controlling possession and dictating the tempo, frustrating opponents with their precise passing and relentless pressing. For Arsenal, the return of Thomas Partey from suspension could be a game-changer. In the first leg, Rice was forced to cover too much ground, leaving Arsenal exposed and unbalanced in the middle. Partey's presence should allow Rice to play in his natural role, while Odegaard can push higher up the pitch, focusing on creativity rather than defensive duty. But Arsenal's task is made even tougher by a growing injury list. Kai Havertz is dealing with a thigh strain, Gabriel Jesus has a knee issue, Zinchenko is sidelined with a back injury, and Takahiro Tomiyasu is still recovering from knee surgery. The biggest concern is the fitness of Gabriel Magalhaes, the defensive anchor who is racing against time to recover from a groin strain. Timber, the player most likely to fill in, is also a fitness doubt and will undergo a late assessment. In this situation, Arteta may be forced to rely on less experienced options like Kiwior or Luke Sky, players who have not faced the pressure of a Champions League semi-final before. Arsenal's problems are not just at the back. Up front, Kai Havertz, one of their most consistent performers recently, may also be missing, putting even more pressure on Martinelli, Odegaard, and Saka to deliver the goals. This is especially concerning given that Paris Saint-Germain come into this match well-rested and with a nearly full-strength squad. Luis Enrique will stick with his 4-3-3 formation, aiming to control possession and exploit the gaps in Arsenal's backline. Gianluigi Donnarumma will remain the #1 choice in goal despite his occasional errors, thanks to his reach and experience in high-stakes matches. On the right side of defense, Achraf Hakimi will be tasked not just with defending but also providing an attacking threat down the flank. On the opposite side, Nuno Mendes will play a similar role, though with a bit more focus on the defensive side. As the lights come on at the Parc des Princes, Arsenal must remember that while history can be a burden, it can also be rewritten. To do that, they must find the courage to believe, the discipline to execute, and the resilience to fight until the final whistle. The center-back pairing for Paris Saint-Germain is likely to be Captain Marquinhos and Lucas Hernandez, a combination of experience and toughness in one-on-one duels. For Arsenal, if William Saliba partners with Kiwior in the heart of defense, they will face a significant challenge against this physically imposing duo. In midfield, the trio of Vitinha, Fabian Ruiz, and João Neves will form a solid defensive shield for PSG. Vitinha will play the role of the deep-lying playmaker, controlling the tempo from deep positions. Fabian Ruiz will focus on advancing the ball with precise long passes, while João Neves will act as the midfield enforcer, breaking up attacks and providing cover when needed. Up front, Gonçalo Ramos will be the main striker. He is not known for flashy skills, but his intelligent movement and ability to draw defenders out of position make him a constant threat. On the left wing, Kvaratskhelia Kvaratskhelia will be the primary attacking outlet, cutting inside to unleash long-range shots. On the right, young Désiré Doué, with his speed and dribbling ability, will be a wild card, particularly dangerous against an Arsenal defense that has shown signs of instability. For Arsenal, Mikel Arteta has little choice but to field his best available players. David Raya will continue as the goalkeeper, valued for his distribution skills, which allow Arsenal to play out from the back. If no more injuries occur, the defense is likely to include Timber at right back, Saliba and Kiwior in the center, with Luke Sky on the left flank. In midfield, the trio of Odegaard, Partey, and Rice will be critical for controlling the tempo and putting pressure on PSG's midfield. This combination of creativity, defensive stability, and physical strength will be crucial in a match where Arsenal must score if they hope to progress. Thomas Partey will anchor the midfield, not just providing defensive cover but also helping Arsenal quickly transition from defense to attack. Beside him, Martin Odegaard will be tasked with creating chances, particularly by exploiting the spaces between PSG's midfield and defensive lines. On the flanks, Bukayo Saka will continue on the right, while Gabriel Martinelli will threaten from the left. These are two of the most dangerous wingers in the Premier League, known for their speed and ability to capitalize on open spaces. One surprise tactic that Mikel Arteta might consider is pushing Mikel Merino higher up the pitch, potentially using him as a false nine. With his height, physicality, and passing vision, Merino could disrupt PSG's defensive shape, creating space for Arsenal's attacking midfielders to exploit. This would be a bold strategic move, similar to how Arsenal used Kai Havertz earlier in the season. While it may not be a long-term solution, in a do-or-die match, this tactical flexibility could be the difference maker. The history between Paris Saint-Germain and Arsenal is full of surprises, making it difficult to predict the outcome. PSG's 1-0 win in the first leg was their first victory over Arsenal in 6 meetings, a milestone, but one that comes at a crucial time. Previously, Arsenal's 2 visits to the Parc des Princes ended in 1-1 draws in 1994 and 2016. This record might give Arsenal a glimmer of hope, especially since they have a strong away form, losing just one of their last 17 away matches, winning their last 2 European away games, and scoring in each of their last 5 trips. However, the Champions League has not always been kind to the North London side. Only 2 teams have reached the final after losing the first leg of a home semi-final: Ajax in the 1995-96 season and Tottenham in 1918-19. Unfortunately, Arsenal have never pulled off such a comeback. On the other hand, PSG have only failed once to progress after winning the first leg away, their infamous 2019 loss to Manchester United. This painful memory still lingers for their fans, despite their impressive home form. They have won their last 4 Champions League home games, scoring 14 goals. However, they have also conceded in their last 3 home matches and have previously stumbled at the Parc des Princes against Liverpool and Atletico Madrid. This means that if Arsenal approaches match with a nothing-to-lose mentality, the chance for an upset is still there. After all, they have already taken down the Bernabeu fortress earlier this season. With the second Champions League final in club history just within reach, both Mikel Arteta and Luis Enrique know this is more than just another match. It is a chance to etch their names in football history. One side will march on to the summit of European football, while the other will be left to wonder what might have been. With the stakes this high, this match will be a true tactical chess game, where a single moment of brilliance could shift the entire balance and rewrite history.